everyone, this is Art from the Bookshelf Odyssey, and I just want to update you on my September reading. I had challenged myself to read 30 books in 30 days. I was defining a book as 250 pages read. So I read some short stories, I read some things that weren't books, and I just added my page count up. And it's not quite the end of September yet. It's September 29th when I'm recording this, but I'm pretty close to the end of the month. And I've got Victober starting in a few days and a lot of things to do for that. So I wanted to just go ahead and put the final one out because I'm not sure I'll be finishing any more books by the end of the month. So as far as books go, I have finished so far 23 books. Some of the last ones I've read since my last update video. One is called The Apprentice by Tess Gerritsen, and that's book 2 in her mystery series. And it follows up from the first book in the series, The Surgeon, I believe it's called, and there are some copycat crimes happening of the crime that was in the original book. And I enjoyed that one. It was a good mystery. It had a lot of scientific and medical stuff that made the story interesting, but the ending itself was a bit abrupt, and I'm not sure I liked that as much, but it was certainly enjoyable enough. I'm definitely going to keep reading the series. I think the characters are pretty interesting, so I'll be checking those out. The next book I read was also a mystery, an old one. It's called The Black Mountain by Rex Stout, and it's a Nero Wolfe novel. And this one is a very personal case for him. If you're not familiar with the Nero Wolfe series, the books were written back in the 40s, 50s, 60s, I think in that time frame. And Nero Wolfe is an overweight, reclusive detective that doesn't like to leave his house, that likes to keep to his schedule no matter what. And he sends out his sidekick, Archie Goodwin, out into the streets of New York City to help him solve crimes. It's a pretty fun series, a lot of snappy dialogue, and some pretty complex mysteries too, if you like the mystery angle. So, but this one, Nero Wolfe has one of his closest friends is killed, and so he actually leaves this house and in the end leaves the country to try to solve the murder of what happened. And there's some political drama, things like that going on in the story as well. So it was a very different Nero Wolfe book, but one I really enjoyed. And then I read a collection of Charles Dickens essays edited by Harold Bloom. A lot of them were pretty academic, and I'm not sure I found them as entertaining to read, but they were certainly formative. There were a couple that I thought really gave me some better and deeper insight into reading Dickens. But overall, it was a really hard read, and I was reading that for about almost a month and a half. It took me to get through that book. It was, like I said, slow reading, but I love just engaging my brain and digging in deeper to some of these books that I like and some of the authors I find interesting. So that was one that you might check out if you're really wanting to go deep into the academic field of Charles Dickens. Book, I think, was published in the 1970s, so some of it might not be as current, up-to-date discussions on Dickens, but it was a very fascinating read. And then I read Locked Out of Heaven. Locked Out of Heaven is written by Danielle Orsino, and I'll be interviewing her on an upcoming episode. So I'll talk more about the book then. But it was really a fascinating, imaginative read, and the world building is incredible. It basically tells an origin story of the Fae in magic and mystical creatures. It's an incredibly imaginative book, as I said. And if you like high fantasy, if you like especially books that seek fantasy as an origin of our world, this would be right up your alley. And then I read the book Around the World in 80 Books, which was kind of a disappointment for me. It's partly my fault on that one because I was not familiar with many of the books he talked about, and I felt like I didn't know. So therefore, I didn't know what he was talking about. I really struggled to comprehend what he was talking about. But he looked at a book from 80 different countries or 80 books from around the world. So some of them were from the same country. And he talked about them, the impact they had on their culture, different things like that. And I'm not sure what I was looking for or thought the book was about. And I'm not sure I even got any good book reading recommendations out of it, although I enjoyed his discussions on the ones that I had read. So I think this book would do better if you read the book that he is going to talk about and then read the entry. But that's a lot of reading for just a 2 or 3 page entry. But if that might be a thing you're interested in, then this book would be one you might want to check out. And then I read a kind of a fun book called Martians Go Home by Fredric Brown. And I heard about this on, I think the channel is called the Sci-Fi Bookery on YouTube, and I'll link his channel below. He had recommended it, and that was, I just on a whim got it from Audible, and it was a lot of fun. Basically, Martians appear on Earth one day. They just kind of blink into existence, and there they are. And they're green, they're little green men, but they like to cause mischief. And the whole question that kind of weaves in and out of the story, and I don't really want to give away the ending and some of the plot points that come there, but are these real or are they not? And why are they here? What are they doing? Why are they so impish and ornery? And the ending was really one of those thought-provoking endings that left you thinking. Got some shorter books in. That was a shorter one. And then I read Psycho, which I'd never read before. It's the classic book Psycho by Robert Bloch. But it's a story of Norman Bates, who runs the Bates Motel with his, shall we say, rather overprotective mother. One night, a desperate woman shows up and shenanigans ensue. What surprised me is I had seen the movie a few years ago, which was very good. I had known most of the twists and turns already of the film because, it's just so much in the social consciousness already. So that part, those things were kind of spoiled for me, but even still, it was a good read and it was a good movie, very good movie. And one I think I can appreciate reading and enjoying. Like, it doesn't only survive because of the twist and the plot twists. It can stand on its own as a good piece of, as a good story. So I enjoyed that. And then I read The Prime Minister by Anthony Trollope in my, continuing in my Trollope reading for the year, reading through the Palliser novels. That one I really enjoyed more than any of the other books in the series so far. I was excited to see that what I thought was one of the main characters, well, I guess he is one of the main characters, Felix Lopez, that he was a biracial character in a Victorian novel. So I thought that was pretty interesting. And I'll just give a minor spoiler here. So jump ahead about a minute or so. But I was kind of disappointed that he turned out to be kind of a scoundrel when at first he appeared to be quite a good character. So that was disappointing. I was hoping to kind of read maybe a more sympathetic character. Not that people of other races can't be criminals. It's just that when they're so rarely portrayed as anything but in classic literature, you get excited that you might find something different. But still, it was a fascinating, very fascinating character. I thought an interesting look at the social dynamic of the time, especially in dealing with other races in Victorian England. So a really good book, the best of that series so far. And then I read The Burn by Kathleen Kent, which is book 2 in the Detective Betty Rizek series. I have just started reading the series this year, and I've really, really enjoyed it. Detective Betty is such a fascinating character. She's been put through the psychological ringer between the first book and this book, that in this book especially, her mental health is really suffering. She's a lesbian detective that is working for the Dallas Police Department, and she has had traumatic events happen to her in the first book, and now she's kind of dealing with the fallout of that in the second book. And this looks at PTSD. It looks at some of the not so much as the first one, but it does touch on some of the prejudices that she deals with. There's a really lovely diverse group of characters that I just fell in love with all of them. The two especially that help her solve the mystery that's central to the book. She works in the drug department. What do you call it? The narcotics division of the Dallas PD. So if you really want a hard-boiled, tough as nails, strong female detective character and a mystery, I'd recommend you this book. They're not like murder mystery kind of things where you have to solve this complex murder and mystery and whodunit, but she's basically trying to find who's selling the drugs and is there corruption in the police department, things of that nature. So really, really well done series so far. I've enjoyed it immensely. So that's what I've read to wrap up here in my September reading. I might have a couple more I'll finish here in the next day or two, but I'm not sure I'll get them done. But I did reach my page goal for the month, and my goal was a whopping 7,500 pages. And as it stands right now, I'm at 7,557, and that's just from the 1st to the 28th. So I've made that page goal. I'm pretty happy with that. Did I actually read 30 whole books? Depends on how you define a book, I guess. I did meet my page goal, if not quite making my book goal, but that's okay. I had a lot of fun, read some great books, and now my bookshelf is cleared and ready for the wonder that is Victober. Stay tuned because in the month of October, I'll be posting a bunch of videos. I've got a bunch of things planned, reading updates, all kinds of things, as well as some Ray Bradbury content coming your way. Stay tuned and make sure you like and subscribe as this really helps out my channel. Thank you so much for watching and take care.